So I'm going to have you start today. Number 9 says cosine squared x times tangent x, and our job is to simplify this. So from yesterday, our strategy, our winning champion's strategy, is to rewrite everything in terms of sine and cosine. So looking at number 9, I'm just going to guide you, but you're going to do the problem on your own. We have two terms here. How many of these two terms do we need to rewrite? Again, we want to rewrite things so that they're sine and cosine. So the first term doesn't need to be rewritten. It's already cosine. It's the second term, tangent, that we should rewrite. So use the formulas from yesterday, or if they're in your head, way to go, and write down your next step. Let's see if you get the right answer. Go all the way to the end. Okay, so back to number 9. If you did it properly, your final answer would have been cosine x sine x, or you could have written sine x cosine x. It doesn't matter. These are both the same, because when you multiply, you can multiply in any order, right? The cosine could go first, or the sine. Just like how 3 times 5 is the same as 5 times 3. So here's how we got there. Our cosine squared on top canceled with one of the cosines on the bottom, leaving us with one cosine on top. We multiplied straight across. So we got cosine x sine x on top, all over 1 times, well, we're left with the 1 down here, so over 1, and then we just got rid of that over 1. Cool, I hope you got that right, but if you didn't, my hope is that you found your error. If you didn't find your error, then I'm hoping that you can check in during office hours and ask a few questions. Okay, let's move on to number 10. So it says tangent x over secant x. I'll do this one with you as notes. So we want to rewrite everything in terms of sine and cosine. So we're going to rewrite both tangent and secant. Tangent is sine x over cosine x. And secant is the reciprocal of cosine x. We have a fraction divided by a fraction, so let's do our magic. The top stays the same. And then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the bottom, so times cosine x over 1. Immediately we notice we can simplify our cosine x's and cancel them out, leaving us with sine x on top, sine times 1 is sine x, over 1 times 1 on the bottom, which is just 1. So our final answer is sine x. I'm trying to give you a sense of the speed at which you should be doing these problems. So number 10 should take about 1 minute. Now, if you're taking like 2 minutes, that's okay. It's not bad. But if you're taking like 5 minutes for the problem, it just means that you're stuck, and you should really come and see me in office hours so we can figure out what's going wrong. Let's do 11. Okay, so I want to rewrite everything in terms of sine and cosine. So immediately my eye goes towards tangent. I'll rewrite that. And I also want to handle this cosecant. So I'll rewrite that. So let's begin. Copy down the cosine x, and instead of tangent, we're going to write sine x over cosine x. Plus, now we'll deal with this. So there's 2 ways we can do this. There is an easy way and a hard way. First, I'm going to show you the hard way, just because I want you to never do this again. So I know cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so I can write it like that. Then I can change this into a 1 over 1 times sine x over 1. So my final answer is sine x. This whole thing just became sine x. Cool, but we could have done that without any of this work in the middle. If you remember that 1 over means the reciprocal of, then this says the reciprocal of cosecant x. And we know the reciprocal of cosecant x is sine x, so we should have just recognized that and written it down. Well, let's carry on from here. I'm putting my cosine x over 1 so I can multiply across. And do you see what we can do? Yeah, our cosines are going to cancel, making this first expression simply sine x over 1, or just sine x, plus sine x. Now I'm seeing that we're adding, so my answer will not be sine squared x. That would only be if we were multiplying in the middle. Since we're adding, we're going to treat these like terms. We have 1 sine x plus 1 sine x, so we add the numbers in front, and our answer is 2 sine x. So make a note to yourself, we treated these as like terms, and we combined them. It's just like if I had x plus x, you would add the numbers in front to get 2x. All right, that's our answer. Let's box it and move on. Number 12 is a problem I'd like you to try on your own. And while you're at it, why don't you also do 13? Pause the video here, then come back and check your work. Okay, so here's our work for number 12. We rewrote both cosecant and tangent. 1 over sine, then sine over cosine. We canceled our sines, so we're left with sine x plus 1 over cosine, and then we replaced 1 over cosine with secant, which was one of our formulas. Number 13, we rewrote just the first expression as 1 over sine. Then, noticing that nothing canceled, we just multiplied straight across, got cosine on top, sine on the bottom, which turned out to be one of our formulas, and I think that was formula number 4. Cotangent is cosine over sine. All right, so this will be the last problem I do with you, number 14. Then you'll do 15 and 16 on your own as homework problems. So cotangent squared x, let's start there. Cotangent, I can write it as 1 over tangent squared x, but I want to use our strategy of converting everything into sine and cosine. So let's rewrite this as cosine squared x over sine squared x instead. Times. Now secant is the reciprocal of cosine, so I'm going to write 1 over cosine x. But notice we have a squared, so our cosine needs to be squared as well. Like that. In the same way, here we had a squared on our cotangent, so we had cosine and sine being squared. Okay. Cosine squareds will cancel. How convenient. And our final answer is, on top we have 1 over sine squared x. We're not quite done. This is the reciprocal of sine, which is cosecant. Have a look. Can you see the mistake that I made? Look carefully. Yep, I should have put a squared in my final answer. And now we're good to go. Okay, pause the video here. Try 15 and 16 on your own. So this was the answer to 15. Check your work. If you did good, give yourself a hand. Now for 16, I want you to type your answer into Edpuzzle. This is going to be the way that I check that you did your work. We're going to come back to the next lesson tomorrow on Wednesday, but feel free to skip ahead and work ahead if you are comfortable. Bye.